School is supposed to prepare you for life. What it doesn't prepare you for is these crazy facts. It turns out your teachers were holding stuff back. Stuff that's generally too wild and weird for young minds. Well, I'm stepping up to fill in those blanks. Hold on to your desk tight, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. I'm Mr. Estrin for List 25, and here are 25 shockingly strange facts you never learned in school. 25. Queen of Fences Crime School. You know the old saying, those who can't do, teach? Well, not true in this case. Mara Mandelbaum, aka the Queen of Fences, was a highly successful criminal in 19th century New York. She was actually a crime boss, at a time when female crime bosses weren't thought to be a thing. Fences is the underworld slang for people dealing in stolen goods. The Queen decided to open up a school for young people with no other option in life. They received a world-class education in wrongdoing. Mandelbaum wound up in Canada when everything went south, no doubt leaving a legacy of crime in the shape of former students. 24. Kindergarten ship. In the early 20th century, authorities in Naples, Italy commissioned a ship like no other. The kindergarten ship had a young crew. Very young, in fact. The aim behind the project was to get kids off the streets and into a disciplined environment where they could learn new skills. The name of the boat was the Carracciola. Teacher Giulia Civita Franceschi was the captain aboard this amazing vessel. The voyage lasted 15 years before finally ending. 23. Parrot Academy. Polly definitely wanted a cracker in this unique educational establishment. Opened in Philadelphia in 1903, the idea behind the academy was simple and completely bizarre. Recordings of human voices would be played to parrots. These feathery students would then learn how to speak. It was quicker than having them stuck in a cage at home mimicking random people, I guess. The reason the academy got started appears to be strictly financial. Founder Mrs. Hope had a husband who sold birds. He wanted to maximize his profit with talking parrots, and so a legend was born. 22. The Haitian Revolution. You may know about the Haitian slave revolt of 1791. If you do, you probably didn't learn it in school. Some commentators have called out the education system for not doing more to highlight the story. So, what happened in this revolution? Saint-Domingue was a French colony whose population was mainly slaves from Africa. Toussaint Louverture, a freed slave turned general who himself profited from the trade, was one of the leading figures of the uprising. It was partly inspired by the French Revolution and a burning sense of injustice. The revolution is described as the first ever slave revolt and the only successful one. Saint-Domingue became Haiti, plus an independent nation in 1804. 21. The connection between the American Civil War and Egypt. What connection? You see, they really don't teach this stuff in school. The Civil War in America between 1861 and 65 changed the game for worldwide cotton supplies. With a major cotton operation in the South out of action due to the blockades, Egypt was in a perfect position to send cotton to the UK and other places in Europe who needed the material fast. 20. Columbus didn't discover America. The Italian explorer Christopher Columbus is thought to have discovered what became America back in 1492. They've made movies about it, which is appropriate, because the story's a work of fiction. Columbus certainly went there, but he wasn't the only person who knew about the territory. Historical evidence suggests that the Vikings landed in the so-called New Worlds hundreds of years earlier. Vikings in the Americas? Well, that's a movie I'd love to see. I never did finish Vikings. I think I got like 2 seasons in. 19. Puritans versus Christmas. You didn't want to be hanging Christmas decorations during 17th century in New England. Otherwise, you'd get a knock on the door from Puritan authorities. Decorations were seen as pro-Catholic, the Puritans being hardline Protestants and also pagan in nature. Christmas as a whole fell under this category, so you couldn't do so much as sing a carol. The penalty for keeping Christmas law was passed in 1659. You were fined the equivalent of $48 for breaking it. 18. Felicette, the space cat. We all know about Laika, the poor stray dog who was blasted into space by the Russians in 1957, right? 6 years later, the French chose a cat named Felicette to boldly go where no feline had gone before. She was what's known as a tuxedo cat, as in she had a two-tone coat. Despite reportedly having a relaxed quality about her, as most cats do, there's no way of knowing exactly how Felicette felt being shot into the atmosphere in a rocket. She went up 97 miles and traveled among the stars for 13 minutes. She would have floated in microgravity. Cat lovers, cover your ears for this next part. Felicette made it home safely, but was then deliberately killed so authorities could study her. 17. Freedom to roam. Over in the Nordic parts of the world, you can walk wherever you like in the countryside and generally enjoy the wonder of nature. It's a basic human right to have the freedom to roam, which translated from the word allemansretten. Obviously, you can't roam into someone's garden or be disruptive, but if it's a wild piece of land, you don't have to get their owner's permission to be there. And real quick, guys, if you like this video and you want to help me out, please give it a like and a comment. It helps the algorithm and helps our channel a lot. So, thanks. 16. Earl Grey area. Be careful not to drink too much. Earl Grey tea? If you're enjoying this beverage with the swanky reputation by the gallon, you might be endangering your health. How so? Well, Earl Grey contains bergamot essence, bergamot being an Italian citrus fruit. It's zesty and refreshing, but it can lead to you becoming intoxicated. You might feel muscle cramps and experience blurred vision, plus nausea and diarrhea. 15. Led to believe. Lead is a material we use for all kinds of things, even though it's poisonous. High quantities of it are bad news, with smaller quantities described as hazardous in a report from 1979. How long have we known about the dangers of lead? Longer than you think. The ancient Romans warned against lead despite it being used in wine production. Go back to 2000 BCE, and connections were made between illness and regular household items such as cooking pots. 14. Bad medicine. Would you take medicine if it was made from people? Believe it or not, cannibal-type attitudes were adopted in 16th and 17th century healthcare. Blood, bones, body fat. It wasn't unusual for these to become ingredients recommended by doctors. For example, there are cases where people with skin conditions were given human fat as part of their treatment. No thanks. I'm good. 13. Down and dirty with dolphins. You won't look at dolphins the same way again after this story. The late 50s saw a weird experiment take place, funded by the American government. They wanted to explore the idea of dolphins talking like humans. Why? Because neuroscientist Dr. John Lilly had some groundbreaking ideas about what dolphins were capable of. However, when researcher Margaret Howe Lovat joined the team, she had to live a pretty dolphin-focused lifestyle. And by focused, I mean really focused. For some reason, things got a little sexual, and reportedly dolphin handjobs were involved. Yeah, you heard me right. I should probably end the commentary at this point. Or, as the French say, fin. 12. Silphium. If you haven't heard of the plant Silphium before, well, there's a good reason for that. 2, actually. 1, they don't really mention it in school. And 2, it was made extinct in ancient Roman times. Silphium was super popular back then, thanks to its resin. You could use it to treat a sore throat, and it could also be used as both a perfume and a contraceptive. I'm not sure how that would work, and I'm not sure I want to know. Between the 1st and 3rd century CE, this yellow flower was picked to death, meaning Silphium was lost forever. 11. Attack dogs. Dogs can be highly aggressive in certain situations. Did you know they were even used in wartime to fight tanks? The Red Army went through a phase of deploying exploding canines. Put simply, they attached a bomb to a poor dog and got it to run under a tank before detonating it. Thankfully, this cruel idea was short-lived. The Russians weren't the only country using animals as living bombs in history, but this was definitely one of the most shocking cases. 10. Head games. King Gojian ruled over the ancient Chinese state of Yu between 496 to 465 BCE. Taking him on in battle was a fearsome prospect. He used a gruesome and shocking war tactic, where those convicted of crimes played a key role. Not only did he put criminals front and center on the battlefield, he gave them specific instructions to follow if things went badly. A convict who had been beaten or captured had to cut off their own head to intimidate Gojian's enemies. 9. Public fashion. What says I love you better than wearing the pubic hair of your beloved as jewelry? Yes, welcome to the wild world of Victorian fashion, which saw people's short and curlies used as a bold statement on personal relationships, just like regular jewelry with a hairy twist. 8. Mal not content. Princess Olga ruled Kiev from the years 945 to 957. There were attempts to marry her to Drevlian Beefcake, Prince Mal, but this didn't go well. Not only did she say no, She said no with extreme prejudice. Matchmakers who arrived at her door asking her to tie the knot were thrown into a grave and buried alive. You can't really blame her for being angry. After all, Prince Mal had murdered her previous husband, brutally ripping him in half, according to legend. 7. The Blessed War. Incredibly, this is how certain people in Iceland describe World War II. It sounds shocking because many who took part in the conflict felt far from blessed. However, in spite of all the bloodshed, there were positive effects from the war. Neutral Zone Iceland was occupied by British, Canadian, and American forces during the early 40s. Their presence gave a boost to the Icelandic economy and infrastructure, which changed the game for people there at a turbulent time in history. 6. You can train as a ghost hunter. The University of Edinburgh's Parapsychology Unit has been offering students direct experiences of investigating the spooky and unexplained since the mid-80s. It's probably going too far saying they run ghost hunting courses, but if you're interested in that kind of thing, this is the place you want to go. That said, you better be prepared to do the work. This isn't some gimmick. The unit is a scientific institution like any other. 5. The next in line effect. Have you ever forgotten a new person's name even though you've just been introduced to them? Don't worry, you're experiencing what's known as the next in line effect. Explored initially by scientist Malcolm Brenner in the 70s, it's part of something called inattentional blindness. Basically, you're distracted by your own feelings. You want to make a good impression when meeting new people, so you zone out a little thinking about yourself. Then you forget about the person you're supposed to be focusing on. 4. National anthem problem. What happens to the national anthem when a country splits in half? Czechoslovakia became Slovakia and the Czech Republic in 1993. This resulted in a musical dilemma. They couldn't both use the same anthem as they were now in different places. How are things resolved? The title of the former Czechoslovakia's anthem sums the situation up. Where is my home? As it turned out, Where is my home went to the Czech Republic. Meanwhile, Slovakia had a classic track titled Lightning over the Tatry, which became their new national anthem. By the way, the Tatry are a mountain range. 3. Cyberchondriacs. We've all done it. Searched online for symptoms and possible causes when we feel poorly. And it's always so frustrating. You could have the sniffles, or you could be about to die from cancer. It's never a good idea, and there's actually a word to describe people who use Dr. Internet. Cyberchondriac mixes cyber with hypochondria, where you immediately think of the worst outcome. 2. Perfume versus plague. What do you think would win in a fight between eau de cologne and bubonic plague? Unbelievably, some thought the perfume came out on top. Oh, and you didn't put it on your skin. You were supposed to drink it. The idea being that you turned yourself into a giant human-shaped perfume bottle to beat the infection. 1. Urination fascination. We don't think too much about pee. Usually we just want to get it out of our bodies as quickly as possible. However, this is kind of an insult to our urine. Scientists find our urine fascinating, as shown in a 2013 study at the University of Alberta. The team there discovered that human urine contained an incredible 3,000 plus chemicals. This gives medical professionals an even better look at what's going on inside our bladders. Better them than me. So now's the time I usually point you to one of our other videos in the end screen. However, I have exciting news. I just launched a new channel called Dark Roast Detectives, where I deep dive into true crime stories. So if you or anyone you know is a fan of true crime, it would mean a heck of a lot if you could check it out here. And I'll catch you next time. There or here. One of the two. Both. Why not both? But, ¿por qué no los dos?